If you're trying to scale your Google Ads past 6 figures per month, there are a lot of small traps you can kind of walk into that will just completely destroy how the account and the campaigns do for you. So what I want to do is really talk about what are those silent killers, what you can do instead of using certain settings that we're going to talk about to make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck when it comes to advertising on Google. And then also just small things to really look out for, because these small settings, whether it's 1, 2, 3, whatever you actually use, can completely alter what you're doing. And you can have an amazing setup, but by leaving these on, it could actually completely destroy how the campaign runs, which means you losing money and not making money. And Google is notorious. If you've ever advertised with Google and you've talked to one of their reps, you understand that most of what they suggest to you, it makes Google money, not you money. You know, a lot of how Google designs their platform to get you to make certain choices based off recommendations. These recommendations are usually tailored towards letting the campaign spend easier. When the campaigns spend easier, it usually means that Google's gonna make more money. And like I said, you're gonna lose money. So very, very important. You do not wanna take what Google says as the Bible of Google Ads. Even though they're the ones who created the platform, they're not necessarily looking out for the results that you're gonna get. They're always looking out for them making more money. And there is some truth to them needing to retain people, you know, on the platform, because if you just burn out your money on the front end, they're gonna lose an advertiser and then boom, nobody wins. But it's just really crazy in the industry. Like there's a lot that they try to instill and recommend, but they just never work. So the first thing is gonna be allowing Google to expand on what you're trying to target. There's a couple ways this happens. I'm gonna talk about each of them, but the core issue here is Google is such a powerful platform because it allows you to go after people who have the intent behind what they're searching. And the second you take that element away and let Google just try to expand based on who you're targeting, it just absolutely wrecks what you're trying to do. So what you want to make sure you're doing is always focus on the benefit of the platform, which is being able to pinpoint the type of traffic that you want and not let the platform trick you into letting it expand on that and then starting to get you a bunch of broad traffic that's not actually going to yield you purchases for your store. So super, super important. The first is going to be optimized targeting. Now, optimized targeting sounds amazing, right? Especially if you read the little, explanation of what the setting does in the Google Ads platform. Google basically tells you it's going to find people exactly who you're trying to target, and it's going to scale into those audiences for you. Not how it works. Basically, what's going to happen is it's going to exhaust the people that you should be targeting based off of the keywords you're going after, audiences you're going after, whether it's YouTube, display, shopping, whatever it is. It's going to exhaust that, and then it's going to start going into people who are like who you're trying to target. And this setting has never panned out. The concept of it's very attractive. Like I said, we've tested this plenty of times. Every single time the setting's turned on and a campaign scales, it just burns your ROI and loses you money. So very important, stay away from optimized targeting at all costs. We have never seen this actually work for one of our clients. Next is going to be Google search and display networks. Now, the networks are something that have been around forever. This is a setting that I would have told you to stay away from 10 years ago if we were making this video then. Basically what it does is it allows Google to show your ads on the partnership network. And what that means is all the thousands, tens of thousands of different websites that Google's partnered with across the internet, probably hundreds of thousands. And it's going to show your ads on those instead of googleads.com. And it'll do both, right? Because it's the partnership network and you're going to kind of have a split of traffic. But almost all the time, anytime you go for placements off of Google, off of YouTube, off of Google's main platform or their websites, you're gonna get absolutely trash traffic. It's gonna give you really crazy engagement, high click-through rate, tons of impressions, cheap CPMs, but you will never get conversions from it. It's just gonna absolutely burn your money and throw it down the drain. So important, you wanna make sure when you're spending on Google, your ads are showing on Google's actual assets, not the different partnership networks, especially not apps. There's so many placements on different apps across the internet, but they're just absolutely horrible placements. They're just gonna lose you money. People just accidentally click on a lot of times I think personally it's a lot of bot traffic, even though that would be against so many policies, but it just does not make sense. If you've ran the partnership network and the optimized targeting, that kind of thing, you will see how crazy the front end engagement is. But the fact that you get that good of engagement on the front end and never actual any purchases just doesn't make sense, right? So something's a little bit fishy there. And then last is Google's display expansion setting. Now this is a separate setting from the actual networks. Very similar concept though. Basically it's allowing you to show on their actual display network. So I won't talk too much on that one. Same principle. Make sure if you're gonna spend money on google.com with their ads, Google ads, whatever it is, it's on Google's actual assets, google.com, youtube.com. And then if you get to the point where you exhaust those completely, which almost never happens, but let's say you just scale into every audience possible on the Google side that's profitable, then you can test it, right? But you don't want to waste money on the front end. You're always wanting to try to spend first on what's most likely to make you money. And that's going to be keeping the ads in those important placements. Next is going to be broad match targeting with no smart bidding. Both can be extremely important to a successful scalable plan on google.com, but they have to be used in the right patterns and especially the right scenarios. And if you're using broad match targeting, basically what's going to happen is you're giving Google the ability to go after synonyms, terms that are like the terms you're trying to target. It kind of loosens the net a bit, like we were talking about in the other settings. But the caveat to that is you're going to have a setting on top of it that's going to tailor the traffic you're trying to go after. So maybe you've brought in the type of people you go after search-wise, but you're still telling Google with maximized conversion value or ROAS that you still want to go of those people who will actually likely to convert. And ROAS, maximized conversion value, whatever it is, that's what's going to tell Google that. And if you don't use those together, you're basically going to scale into unprofitable traffic, and it's going to really burn how you should be running the campaign. So very important, if you're going to use broad match targeting, make sure you have smart bidding on it, because that's going to tell Google still, you can go after people who are searching different things, maybe similar intent styles, but make sure they're people who have the patterns to actually convert and make a purchase on stores, because that's who we want on our store. Next to that is going to be mixing intent of keywords. We talked about in other videos how you want to make sure you're segmenting things across Google Ads. And if you don't do that, it's going to pull things together. Google's algorithm absolutely sucks when it determines where money should go. And when you mix the intent of keywords together, like let's say in the extreme, you're putting branded keywords along with cold keywords, Google is just going to spread the budget around just with no pattern. It's not going to make any sense when you look at it. You're going to be spending on keywords that'll actually yield no return, where other keywords where yielding return will actually get little spend. So when you're doing this, you always want to make sure to have each of your keyword intent levels segmented in their own grouping. That way they have dedicated budgets, and then you can make changes to the keyword level at that point. But if you mix everything together, it's going to absolutely destroy how you're running the actual campaign, because Google does not do a good job of scaling into what should work. It just kind of gets a little funky and starts pushing budget around into random areas. Next is going to be a little bit of a hidden setting. When you're setting up a campaign, you have the ability, of course, to target who you want demographically. It could be states, it could be countries, it could be even zip codes. But what Google does not present on the front end is that there's actually two settings of where you're trying to target: presence in or interest in presence in. And what this means is presence in is what you want to do. Presence in means that people are actually living and located in the areas you're trying to target. Presence and interest in means that you're going after people who are just also interested in those areas. So it could be people who live there. It could also be people who are interested in living there, interested in vacationing there, looking it up for some reason. They could be in Florida. And when you're trying to target people in California, maybe they looked up, Disneyland in California and they're going to go there for their summer vacation, but boom, now they're seeing your ad because they were just simply interested in that state. Same thing happens with countries too. So very important, when you want to actually set up your location targeting, make sure to hit that drop down and make sure you switch the setting to presence in. That way you don't get people who are actually out of the location. You get people who are specifically in that location you're trying to target. If you don't do that, you will get that 10 or 20% of people you don't want to target, and it will burn you money. You can see how this really adds up, right? Because if you have 3 or 4 of these settings in the mix, and let's say there's 10 settings, right? If you have 3 or 4 of them in the mix that don't actually yield towards the campaign working well, it could completely alter the ROI. That could burn, let's say 30 to 40% of the budget. Whereas if you weren't doing that and all 50, 60% of that budget was maximized to the 100% level, you would have a substantially better ROI on what you're targeting, and you'd have more sustainability and the scalability of the campaign. So these do add up a lot. Each one might sound maybe not necessarily insignificant, but not like they'd be absolutely game changers. But if you take all these tips in conjunction, it will absolutely increase the odds of you having success on the platform, and of course, scaling the campaigns properly. These last two are going to be actually with Google's automated recommendations, which if you have Google Ads account, you can go to recommendations, and there's going to be a ton of different settings in there that'll allow Google to actually make changes to your campaigns without asking you. And you can turn them off, you can turn them on. A lot of the times now, I believe they have them innately on. Sometimes you have to actually go in and turn them on, but very, very important to actually check, because if you don't check and they are on, it could totally screw up what you're running. And the first one's going to be automated assets. Now, Google's tried to implement AI into the platform, and there's some ways that it's worked well, right? But there's also ways that it's gone horribly, and this is an example of that. That's going to be automated assets. Now, if you're running PMax, shopping, really anything with visual elements, they will do AI assisted like text writing too on the search side, but a lot of the times they won't insert new text lines into it. It'll just be more so on the asset side, like pictures and videos. But what Google will do is it'll, from the context of your assets on like your website, your product page, whatever it is, they'll take all these hints of things and it'll create assets with AI that it starts plugging into your campaigns, and they'll just be absolutely atrocious. You'll see one day maybe an ad running for your store, it's on YouTube, it's on display, whatever it is, and it'll just be this bizarre image or video, and you'll wonder how the hell it got there. The answer is going to be AI. They basically just created that and put it in your campaign. So if you have that setting off, it's going to stop Google from doing that. The next is going to be keyword idea insertions. This is going to be Google allowing itself to put new keyword targeting keywords in your actual ad groups. And if you have this on, same thing, not really on the asset side, but more on the targeting side, it's going to allow Google to add more people that they think you should target, which once again is not going to be the best traffic. You really want to make sure whenever you're using Google Ads, you do not let the platform or algorithm take control of what you're running, because when they do that, historically it goes very wrong. So make sure you have all these automated settings off, because if you do have them on, you're gonna have all these bizarre things happening in your campaigns over time that wouldn't happen if you actually had the control. So to recap, biggest thing, if you can learn anything from this video, is not allowing Google too much leverage on the account. The first instance of that is gonna be allowing you to expand on the traffic you're gonna target with those settings I talked about. Next is gonna be going after broad targeting without smart bidding, which is gonna be your savior. Third is going to be making sure Google is showing the ads to people who are actually living in the location you want to target. And then the very last part is not allowing Google to use AI to put new things in your campaigns. So make sure when you're running Google Ads, keep the control. There's going to be many more videos that we put on our channel talking about how to actually build these campaigns, other settings you want to use, other settings you might not want to use, things that historically have worked for our clients. We've spent over $55–60 million on the platform to this point. So we've had a lot of experience testing different settings that have either allowed campaigns to scale very high or completely crushed them. So make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you again watching, and I'll see you in the next video.